Before we dive into today's story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And remember to rate this story from 0 to 10 when we reach the end. Now, let's begin. The massive oak doors of the Grandview Plaza Hotel stood before Maya Chen like gates to another world. She adjusted her grip on the enormous cake box, feeling the weight of 3 tiers of buttercream and fondant pressing against her arms. Her bakery van was parked illegally at the curb, hazard lights blinking frantically, but she had no choice. The elevator was broken, and she'd already climbed 2 flights of service stairs. Now she just needed to find the Wellington wedding in the grand ballroom, and her Saturday delivery would be complete. The hotel corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, all cream-colored walls and gold-framed mirrors that made her feel suddenly aware of her flour-dusted apron and the smudge of chocolate on her wrist. She'd been up since 4 in the morning, piping delicate sugar roses onto this masterpiece, and her feet ached in her sensible sneakers. Maya glanced at the delivery order on top of the box. Wellington wedding, grand ballroom, 2 p.m. She checked her watch. 1:58. Perfect timing. She turned left, following the signs, her breathing slightly labored from the stairs and the weight of the cake. The sound of string music grew louder as she walked, the sweet strains of a violin quartet floating through the hallway. Through open double doors ahead, she could see the glimmer of crystal and the soft glow of candlelight. Relief washed over her. She'd made it. As Maya entered the ballroom, her eyes widened. The space was breathtaking, decorated in white and gold with thousands of roses cascading from ceiling installations. Round tables draped in ivory silk surrounded a polished dance floor, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. Everything sparkled with an elegance that made her little bakery seem like a different universe entirely. A woman in a crisp black suit approached quickly, her expression professional but warm. She wore a headset and carried a clipboard. Clearly the wedding coordinator. The cake. Thank goodness you're here. Right this way, please. Maya followed her to an ornate table near the center of the room, positioned perfectly for photographs. She carefully lowered the box and began the delicate process of unpacking the cake, removing the protective cardboard layers she'd constructed that morning. The coordinator hovered nearby, checking something on her phone with increasing frequency. "It's beautiful," the woman murmured, watching as Maya revealed the 3-tier creation. White fondant with hand-piped gold filigree, topped with sugar peonies in shades of cream and blush. It had taken Maya 16 hours to complete. "Thank you," Maya said, allowing herself a small smile of pride. She stepped back to survey her work, making minor adjustments to ensure each tier sat perfectly level. "Is there anything else you need?" The coordinator glanced at her phone again, her brow furrowing slightly. "No, this is perfect. Thank you so much." She seemed distracted, her attention clearly pulled elsewhere. Maya nodded, gathering her empty box and supplies. She was halfway to the door when a commotion near the entrance made her pause. A tall man in an impeccably tailored tuxedo strode into the ballroom, his dark hair slightly disheveled, his jaw tight. Even from across the room, Maya could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands clenched at his sides. He was handsome in a sharp, almost severe way, with strong features and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. 2 other men in tuxedos followed him, speaking in low, urgent tones. The coordinator rushed over immediately, her professional composure cracking slightly. Maya knew she should leave, but something about the scene held her attention. She pretended to check her phone, lingering near a floral arrangement. "Mr. Blackwood," the coordinator said, her voice carefully controlled. "We still haven't been able to reach, I know," the man interrupted, his voice deep and edged with something between anger and resignation. "She's not coming." The words hung in the air. Maya's eyes widened. She glanced around the ballroom, really looking now at the guests who were beginning to arrive. Well-dressed men and women in designer clothes, their expressions ranging from curious to uncomfortable. This was the groom, she realized. And apparently, there was no bride. Maya's heart clenched with unexpected sympathy. She'd seen bridezillas and demanding clients, had dealt with last-minute changes and wedding day disasters. But a bride not showing up? That was a new level of heartbreak. She should definitely leave now. This was none of her business. She took a step toward the door. "What do you want me to tell the guests?" The coordinator asked quietly. Mr. Blackwood ran a hand through his hair, his expression hard. "The truth. The wedding is canceled. But the reception will continue. No reason to waste everything." His gesture encompassed the room, the flowers, the tables set with china and crystal. And Maya's cake. One of the men with him, slightly older with silver threading through his dark hair, placed a hand on Mr. Blackwood's shoulder. "Adrian, maybe we should know." Adrian Blackwood's voice was firm. "I'm not hiding. I'm not running away. If Vanessa wanted to humiliate me, she succeeded. But I'm not going to make it worse by cowering." Maya felt her chest tighten. There was something almost admirable in his defiance, even as she could see the hurt beneath the anger. She'd been on the receiving end of humiliation before. She knew what it felt like to have your plans crumble, to face a room full of people who knew your failure. Her ex-fiancé had called off their engagement 3 months before their own wedding, announcing he'd fallen in love with someone else. She'd lost deposits, faced pitying looks, and rebuilt her life one cake at a time. The coordinator began making announcements, her voice carrying across the ballroom as more guests arrived. Waiters appeared with champagne on silver trays. The quartet played on, their music now seeming oddly discordant with the underlying tension in the room. Maya made her way toward the exit again, but the crowd had thickened near the doors. She found herself stuck, surrounded by strangers in expensive clothes murmuring to each other, their voices creating a buzz of speculation and gossip. "Did you hear? Vanessa left him at the altar. I heard she ran off with someone else. Poor Adrian. Although you know what they say about the Blackwood men and love, his mother must be devastated after all the money they spent." Maya winced at the callousness of it all. She clutched her empty cake box and tried to edge through the crowd, keeping her head down. She didn't belong here, in this world of wealth and drama. She needed to get back to her bakery, back to her own life. "Excuse me." The deep voice came from directly beside her. Maya turned and found herself face to face with Adrian Blackwood himself. Up close, he was even more striking, with dark eyes that held a complexity she couldn't quite read. He was tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze, and there was an intensity to him that made her breath catch. "You made the cake," he said. It wasn't a question. Maya nodded, suddenly self-conscious about her casual clothes and messy ponytail among all this formal elegance. "Yes." "I'm sorry. I was just leaving. I hope." She stopped, unsure what to hope for in this situation. "It's beautiful," Adrian said, his voice softening slightly. "Thank you." Maya felt her cheeks warm at the unexpected compliment. "You're welcome. I'm really sorry about everything." Adrian's expression tightened again, but he nodded. "Not your fault." He glanced at the cake sitting pristine and beautiful on its table, a monument to a wedding that would never happen. "It seems wrong to let it go to waste." Before Maya could respond, the coordinator appeared again, her headset slightly askew now, stress evident in every line of her body. "Mr. Blackwood, your mother is asking for you, and we need to decide about dinner service." Adrian exhaled slowly, his shoulders straightening as he visibly gathered himself. "Tell her I'll be there in a moment. And yes, serve dinner. Everyone came expecting an event. Let's give them one." The coordinator nodded and hurried away. Adrian turned back to Maya, and something flickered in his expression. "You should stay," he said abruptly. Maya blinked. "I'm sorry. What?" "Stay for the reception. You put hours into that cake. You should at least see people enjoy it." His tone was formal, but there was something almost pleading beneath it. Maya shook her head, already backing away. "That's very kind. But I couldn't. I'm not dressed for." She gestured at her apron and jeans. "I have an event to salvage, and a room full of people who are here to watch me suffer through it," Adrian said, and there was a dark humor in his voice now. "Having one person here who isn't whispering about me behind their hand would be refreshing." Maya hesitated. It was completely inappropriate. She was the cake vendor, not a guest. She was wearing sneakers, for heaven's sake, but something in his eyes made her pause. Beneath the hard exterior, she could see genuine pain and a loneliness that resonated with her own experiences. "I really should get back to my bakery," she said. But her voice was less certain now. "5 minutes," Adrian said. "Stay for 5 minutes. Have a glass of champagne, see people try your cake. Then you can go." It was a terrible idea. Maya knew it was a terrible idea. But she found herself nodding anyway. 5 minutes. Adrian's expression didn't quite reach a smile, but something eased in his features. He gestured to one of the passing waiters, who brought over a tray of champagne flutes. Adrian took 2 and handed one to Maya. "To disasters that could have been worse," he said, raising his glass. Maya couldn't help the small laugh that escaped. "To survival," she countered, and they clinked glasses. The champagne was exquisite, far better than anything Maya usually drank. She took a sip, letting the bubbles tickle her throat, and glanced around the ballroom again. More guests had arrived, and the space was filling with the low murmur of conversation. Everyone was determinedly not staring at Adrian, which meant they were absolutely staring at him whenever they thought he wasn't looking. "This must be incredibly difficult," Maya said quietly. "I can't imagine, can't you?" Adrian's gaze was shrewd. "You have the look of someone who understands humiliation." Maya felt her defenses rise, then crumble. There was no point in pretending. "My fiancé left me 3 months before our wedding. Called it off via text message while I was at a bridal fitting. She wasn't sure why she was telling him this. Maybe it was the champagne, or the surreal nature of the situation, or the fact that she'd never see this man again after today." Adrian's expression darkened. "Text message. That's exceptionally cowardly." "I thought so too," Maya agreed. She took another sip of champagne. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up. Your situation is obviously different? Worse?" Adrian shook his head. "Betrayal is betrayal. Scale doesn't matter when it's your heart being broken." The words were unexpectedly vulnerable, and Maya felt a connection snap into place between them. Here, in this ballroom full of strangers and spectacle, she'd found someone who understood. The moment stretched between them, and Maya realized she was staring. She looked away quickly, her cheeks warming again. "Mr. Blackwood." A woman's voice rang out across the ballroom, sharp with authority and disapproval. Maya turned to see an elegant woman in her 60s approaching, her silver hair swept into a perfect chignon, her champagne-colored dress clearly designer. Diamonds glittered at her throat and ears. This had to be Adrian's mother. "Mother," Adrian said, his voice carefully neutral. His mother reached them, her sharp eyes taking in Maya with obvious confusion and disdain. "Adrian, people are asking questions. You need to address the guests. Make some kind of statement." "And who is this?" She looked at Maya as if she were something unpleasant that had been tracked in on someone's shoe. "This is Maya," Adrian said, not specifying further. She created the cake. Understanding and dismissal flickered across his mother's face simultaneously. "I see. Well, I'm sure you have other deliveries to make." It was a clear command to leave. Maya felt herself shrinking, the familiar sensation of not belonging washing over her. "Actually, I asked Maya to stay," Adrian said firmly. "As my guest." His mother's expression froze. "Adrian, this is hardly the time for what, Mother?" For making my own decisions? For having one person in this room who isn't judging every move I make? Adrian's voice remained level, but there was steel beneath it. Maya stays. The silence that followed was excruciating. Maya wanted the floor to open and swallow her. She should never have agreed to stay, not even for 5 minutes. This was exactly why she didn't belong in places like this. Fine, his mother said finally, her tone clipped. But you still need to address the guests. Now. Adrian. She swept away without another word, her posture rigid with disapproval. Adrian exhaled slowly. I apologize for that. My mother is traditional. I should go, Maya said, setting down her champagne glass. This was a mistake. I don't belong here, and I'm obviously making things more complicated. Please don't. Adrian caught her wrist gently, his touch warm and surprisingly careful. You're the only real person I've talked to all day. Everyone else either pities me or is enjoying the spectacle. You're just here. Do you know how rare that is? Maya met his eyes and saw genuine need there. Not romantic, not yet, just human connection in the midst of chaos. She understood it completely. She'd felt that same desperate need for normalcy after her own humiliation. Okay, she heard herself say. But I really am extremely underdressed. The corner of Adrian's mouth quirked in something almost like a smile. You're perfect. Before Maya could process that statement, the coordinator appeared again, gently touching Adrian's elbow. Mr. Blackwood, everyone's seated for dinner. We're ready for you to speak. Adrian straightened, his expression shifting back into that hard, controlled mask. He handed his champagne glass to a passing waiter and buttoned his tuxedo jacket. For a moment he looked every inch the powerful businessman the whispers suggested he was. Then he glanced at Maya. Come with me? It wasn't really a question, and Maya found herself nodding. She followed him through the ballroom, acutely aware of every eye turning to watch them. Whispers rose in their wake. Who is she? Why is she dressed like that? Is this some kind of statement? Maya's face burned, but she kept her chin up. She'd survived worse than gossip. Adrian led her to the head table, where place cards marked out seats that would now remain empty. He pulled out a chair for her, a simple gesture that felt monumental given the circumstances. And Maya sat, feeling completely surreal. The chair beside her, where the bride should have sat, remained conspicuously empty. Adrian stood at his position at the center of the head table, and the room gradually fell silent. All eyes turned to him, the collective attention of 200 guests waiting to see how he would handle this catastrophe. Maya's heart pounded. She clasped her hands in her lap, trying to make herself invisible while simultaneously being on display at the head table. This was insane. She was a baker from Brooklyn who'd stumbled into a billionaire's wedding disaster. Thank you all for coming today, Adrian began, his voice carrying easily across the ballroom. He didn't use a microphone. He didn't need to. There was a natural authority in his tone that commanded attention. I'm sure you've all heard by now that there won't be a wedding ceremony. Vanessa has decided not to join us. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Maya saw some people exchange knowing looks. Others shift uncomfortably. Adrian's mother sat at a nearby table, her expression a mask of barely controlled fury and embarrassment. I could stand here and make excuses, or pretend that everything is fine. But I've never been good at pretenses, Adrian continued. The truth is, I'm standing here on what should have been my wedding day, and the woman I planned to marry chose not to show up. That's humiliating. It's painful, and it's very, very public. The honesty was stunning. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. In a world where people hid behind social media filters and carefully curated images, Adrian's raw vulnerability was both shocking and beautiful. But, Adrian said, his voice strengthening, all of you are here. This incredible space is here. The food, the music, the flowers, all of it is here. And I'm here, so we're going to do something radical. We're going to celebrate anyway. Confused murmurs spread through the room. Adrian gestured broadly, encompassing the entire ballroom. Not a wedding, obviously, but life. Survival. The fact that we get up every morning and keep going even when things fall apart, that seems worth celebrating to me. He paused, and his gaze found Maya's across the distance. Something passed between them. An understanding. A shared recognition of pain survived, and life rebuilt. "I've learned something today," Adrian said, still holding Maya's gaze. "Sometimes the things we think we want aren't actually what we need. Sometimes life has to fall apart so it can come together in a better way. I don't know what my better way looks like yet, but I'm ready to find out." He raised his water glass in a toast to unexpected turns, to new beginnings, to finding out who we really are when everything we thought we knew falls away. For a moment, silence held the room. Then, slowly, people began raising their glasses. Maya lifted hers, her throat tight with emotion. Adrian's eyes hadn't left hers, and she felt something shift in the space between them. Some connection forming that had nothing to do with cakes or weddings or disasters. The room erupted in applause, and the spell broke. Adrian sat down in his designated seat, and the waiters immediately began serving the first course. Maya stared at the elaborate plate placed before her, some kind of delicate salad with edible flowers and a balsamic reduction that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget. "That was brave," Maya said quietly, leaning slightly toward Adrian. "That was necessary," Adrian replied. "I could either control the narrative or let it control me." He picked up his fork, studying the salad without much interest. "Besides, it's the truth. Vanessa and I were wrong for each other. I think I've known it for months. But I was too proud to admit it, or too afraid of disappointing everyone." "Fear of disappointment is powerful," Maya said, thinking of her own failed engagement. She'd ignored so many red flags with Derek, convinced that if she just tried harder, loved better, it would work out. "It is," Adrian agreed. He finally looked at her properly, his expression curious. "Tell me about your bakery." The question surprised Maya. "It's small. Just me and one employee. We do custom cakes, pastries, some wedding cakes like yours. It's in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood that's still affordable because it hasn't been discovered yet. Do you love it?" Maya considered the question. "Most days. It's hard work. Exhausting, actually. I'm up before dawn, I'm covered in flour and sugar more often than not, and I'll probably never be rich. But when I create something beautiful, when a customer sees their cake for the first time and their face just lights up, yeah, I love it. That sounds like real success," Adrian said. "More real than anything I've built." Maya raised an eyebrow. "What do you do?" "I'm realizing I have no idea, beyond the fact that you can afford a wedding at the Grandview Plaza." A hint of amusement crossed Adrian's face. "Real estate development. My family builds luxury properties, hotels, high-rise condos, mixed-use developments. The Blackwood name is on about 30 buildings in this city alone." "So you're very rich and very successful," Maya said. "That sounds pretty real to me." "It's real in terms of money and power," Adrian said. "But success? I'm not sure. I've spent the last decade building what my father built, expanding what my grandfather started. But I'm not sure I've built anything that's actually mine. Does that make sense?" It did, more than Maya wanted to admit. Before she could answer, Adrian's mother appeared at his elbow, her expression icy. "Adrian, I need to speak with you, privately." Her eyes flicked to Maya with clear disapproval. "Now is not a good time, Mother," Adrian said without looking up from his salad. "Adrian Michael Blackwood." His mother's voice dropped to a sharp whisper, but Maya could still hear it. "I have tolerated quite enough today. You will not embarrass this family further by entertaining some delivery person at your own non-wedding." Maya's face burned. She started to stand, ready to excuse herself and flee. But Adrian's hand shot out and gently pressed her back into her seat. "Maya is my guest," Adrian said, his voice dangerously quiet, "and you will treat her with respect, or you will leave. Your choice." The tension at the table was suffocating. Maya wanted to disappear. Several nearby guests had clearly overheard, their conversations trailing off as they watched the drama unfold. Adrian's mother drew herself up, her face pale with anger. "We will discuss this later, but know that I am profoundly disappointed in your judgment. Today of all days." She swept away, her posture rigid. Maya felt sick. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I've made everything worse. I should never have stayed." "You've made nothing worse," Adrian said firmly. "My mother is disappointed because I'm not performing grief appropriately. Because I'm not hiding away or begging Vanessa to come back. Because I'm choosing to live my life on my terms instead of hers. You being here has nothing to do with it. I'm still the baker who doesn't belong at the head table," Maya pointed out. "Says who?" Adrian's eyes locked on hers. "Who gets to decide where you belong?" "Them?" He gestured at the room full of wealthy, judgmental guests. "Or you?" The question hung in the air between them. Maya had spent so much of her life feeling like she didn't belong. Too working class for the culinary institute she'd attended on scholarship. Too ambitious for her family who thought she should get a real job. Too damaged after Derek's betrayal to deserve another chance at love. But sitting here, in this surreal moment, with this complicated man who just had his world upended, Maya felt something shift inside her. Maybe belonging wasn't about fitting into someone else's world. Maybe it was about defining her own. "You're right," she said quietly. "I belong here because I choose to be here." Adrian's expression softened into something that might almost have been a smile. "Good. Now, let's see if this salad is actually as pretentious as it looks." Maya laughed, surprising herself. She picked up her fork and tasted the salad. It was delicious, of course, perfectly balanced, with a crunch of candied walnuts and the sharp tang of goat cheese complementing the greens. They ate in companionable silence for a few moments, while conversation gradually resumed around them. The initial shock of the situation was wearing off, and guests were beginning to relax into what was becoming less of a wedding reception and more of an unexpectedly elegant party. "So," Adrian said, setting down his fork, "tell me about the worst cake disaster you've ever had." Maya groaned. "Oh no. Do I have to? Consider it payment for the entertainment I've provided you today," Adrian said, and there was definite amusement in his eyes now. "Fine," Maya said. "Last year I had a wedding cake order for a couple who wanted a beach theme. They specifically requested white chocolate shells, sugar sand, the works. I spent 3 days on it. It was gorgeous. I drove it out to the Hamptons for their beach ceremony. I sensed disaster approaching," Adrian said. "I got stuck in traffic. The air conditioning in my van broke. It was 95 degrees in July." Maya shuddered at the memory. "By the time I arrived, I had 3 tiers of melted white chocolate soup and a bride who burst into tears on the spot." "What did you do?" "I called every bakery within 30 miles until I found one that could throw together a simple buttercream cake in 2 hours. I personally drove to pick it up, drove back, and decorated it myself on site with fresh flowers from the venue. The bride actually ended up loving it more than the original design." Adrian shook his head, clearly impressed. "That's incredible problem-solving under pressure. That's being too stubborn to fail," Maya corrected. "I'd already refunded half her deposit because of the disaster, but I wasn't going to let her wedding day be ruined. She deserved better." "You care about your clients," Adrian observed, "even when things go wrong." "Of course. These are important moments in people's lives. I'm not just making a cake. I'm creating part of their memory. That matters." Maya paused, then smiled wryly. "Though I have to say, This is the first time I've delivered a cake and ended up at the head table of a canceled wedding. First time for everything, Adrian said. The next course arrived, a perfectly seared scallop on a bed of saffron risotto. Maya had never eaten food this expensive or elaborate. She savored each bite, trying to memorize the flavors, the techniques. Maybe she could incorporate some of these ideas into her bakery's catering menu. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian said after a while. "Sure." "Why did you stay?" "Really? It wasn't just because I asked you to." Maya considered lying or deflecting. But the honesty Adrian had shown in his speech deserved a genuine answer. "Because you looked like I felt 3 months ago. Humiliated, hurt, but determined not to let it break you. I stayed because I wished someone had stayed with me when I was in that place. Just one person who understood." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "Thank you," he finally said, and his voice was rough with emotion. "That means more than you know." The dinner progressed through multiple courses, a delicate soup, a choice of beef tenderloin or Chilean sea bass, seasonal vegetables arranged like art. With each course, the atmosphere in the ballroom shifted further from awkward disaster to genuine party. The champagne flowed freely, the string quartet was joined by a jazz band, and people began to mingle, moving between tables. Maya watched Adrian throughout the meal, noting how he handled each person who approached to offer condolences or curiosity. He was gracious but firm, accepting their words but not wallowing in pity. He introduced Maya to everyone as simply "my friend Maya," and she saw eyebrows raise at the designation, but couldn't bring herself to care. "Mr. Blackwood?" A young man in an expensive suit approached the table, his expression nervous. "I'm Jonathan Wells. I work for the Tribune's Society page. I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about No," Adrian said simply. "But the public is curious about." "My private life is private, Mr. Wells. Even when it implodes publicly. I'd appreciate if you'd respect that." Adrian's tone was polite but final. The reporter looked disappointed, but nodded and retreated. Maya leaned toward Adrian. "Do you think this will be in all the papers tomorrow?" "Absolutely," Adrian said grimly. "By morning, every gossip site and society column in the city will have some version of this story. My mother is probably already coordinating with the family's PR team." "How do you stand it? The constant scrutiny?" "Years of practice," Adrian said. "When your family has money, everything you do is news to someone. You learn to ignore it, or it consumes you." He glanced at her. "I'm sorry you're going to be dragged into it. Mystery woman at Blackwood disaster wedding will definitely be a headline." Maya's stomach dropped. "Oh no. I didn't think about that." "It's not too late to leave," Adrian offered. "Slip out now, and you might avoid the worst of it. Stay, and you're definitely going to be photographed, speculated about, possibly harassed by reporters." It was a clear out. Kindly offered. Maya could take it. Return to her anonymous life. Treat this as a strange story to tell someday. Or she could stay, accept the consequences, and see where this unexpected connection led. She thought about her bakery, her quiet life, her careful rebuilding after Derek's betrayal. She'd made herself small and safe, avoiding risks, avoiding hurt. But sitting here, in this opulent ballroom with this complicated man, Maya realized she was tired of being small. "I'm staying," she said. Adrian's expression shifted into something warm and pleased. "I was hoping you'd say that." The cake cutting happened just before dessert service. The coordinator approached with a carefully neutral expression and a cake knife on a silver platter. "Mr. Blackwood, traditionally the bride and groom cut the cake together. Would you prefer to skip this part?" Maya saw Adrian's jaw tighten, and she spoke before thinking. "I'll do it with him." Everyone within earshot turned to stare. The coordinator looked shocked. Adrian's expression was unreadable. "You don't have to," Adrian said quietly. "I know," Maya said. But I made that cake, and I want to see it properly cut. Plus, it seems wrong for you to do it alone. Something flashed across Adrian's face. Gratitude. Surprise. Something deeper that Maya couldn't quite name. He stood and offered her his hand. Then let's do this together. Maya took his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm against hers, the strength in his fingers. They walked to the cake table together while the entire ballroom watched. Cameras flashed from multiple directions, and Maya knew her life was about to get very complicated. The cake stood pristine on its table, the sugar peonies catching the light, the gold filigree gleaming. Maya felt a surge of pride looking at it. 16 hours of work, every detail perfect. The coordinator handed Adrian the knife, and he positioned it at the base of the bottom tier. Then he hesitated and offered the handle to Maya. You should lead, he said. It's your creation. Maya placed her hand over his on the knife handle. Together, they pressed down, cutting through fondant and buttercream and layers of champagne-infused vanilla cake. The ballroom erupted in applause, and Maya couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Here she was, cutting a wedding cake with a groom whose bride had abandoned him, being applauded by 200 wealthy strangers. Her life had officially become surreal. They lifted the first slice onto a plate, and Adrian picked up a fork. Traditionally, the bride and groom fed each other cake, often with playful smashing or gentle sweetness depending on the couple. Adrian looked at the fork, then at Maya, clearly wondering how to navigate this moment. Maya made the decision for him, taking the fork and cutting off a small piece. Taste it, she said. Tell me if it's worth 16 hours of work. Adrian accepted the fork, his eyes never leaving hers. He tasted the cake, and his expression shifted to genuine surprise. This is incredible. The flavor, the texture. Maya, this is extraordinary. Thank you, Maya said, warmth spreading through her chest. Baking is science and art combined. Get both right, and magic happens. You're an artist, Adrian said seriously. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The moment felt weighted with more than just words about cake. Maya felt seen in a way she hadn't in a long time, not as a vendor or a service provider, but as a creator, an equal. The coordinator efficiently cut the rest of the cake and distributed it to guests. Maya and Adrian returned to the head table, where the final course, a delicate chocolate mousse with raspberry coulis, awaited them. I have a confession, Adrian said as they sat down. What's that? I've been to dozens of weddings, suffered through hundreds of terrible wedding cakes that were all pretty and no substance. This is the first time I've ever actually enjoyed wedding cake. Maya grinned. That's because most wedding cakes are made by big commercial bakeries that prioritize appearance over flavor. I'm stubborn enough to insist both matter. Stubborn seems to be your defining characteristic, Adrian observed. Says the man who decided to throw a party at his own canceled wedding. Maya countered. Adrian laughed, a real, genuine laugh that transformed his face. The hard edges softened, the pain in his eyes lifted, and for a moment he looked years younger, almost carefree. Maya realized she wanted to make him laugh like that again. As dinner concluded and the tables were cleared, the band shifted from background music to dance music. The coordinator made an announcement inviting guests to the dance floor, and couples began to stand, moving toward the polished wooden floor beneath the chandeliers. Adrian stood and offered Maya his hand once again. Dance with me? Maya's heart jumped. I'm not a very good dancer. Neither am I, really, Adrian said. But I think we've both established tonight that we're willing to try things we're not good at. Maya took his hand and let him lead her to the dance floor. The band was playing something slow and jazzy, and Adrian pulled her into a classic ballroom hold, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers, a respectful distance between them. They began to move, and Maya immediately stepped on his foot. Sorry, she gasped. You warned me, Adrian said, amusement in his voice. Just follow my lead. Trust me. Maya tried to relax, to let Adrian guide her through the steps, She was acutely aware of his hand at her waist, the warmth of him close to her, the way he smelled of expensive cologne, and something uniquely him. Gradually, she found the rhythm, let herself trust his lead. They moved together around the dance floor, and Maya felt something inside her unwind. When was the last time she'd danced? When was the last time she'd let herself be close to someone, trusted someone to catch her if she stumbled? "You're thinking very hard about something," Adrian observed. "I'm thinking about trust," Maya admitted. "How hard it is to give it after it's been broken." "The hardest thing in the world," Adrian agreed. His hand tightened slightly at her waist. "I trusted Vanessa, trusted that we were building something real, even when all the evidence suggested otherwise. I kept ignoring the doubts because I'd already committed. Sunk cost fallacy applied to relationships." "What were the doubts?" Maya asked. She knew she was being nosy, but Adrian had been so open that the question seemed natural. Adrian was quiet for a moment, guiding them through a turn. "She loved the idea of being a Blackwood more than she loved me. She loved the lifestyle, the money, the status. But me? The actual person? I'm not sure she ever really saw me." The word struck Maya deeply because she'd felt exactly the same about Derek. He'd loved the version of her that served his needs, the supportive girlfriend who made his life easier, but not the real Maya with her dreams and ambitions. "Derek, my ex, he loved the idea of a girlfriend," Maya said. "He loved having someone to cook for him, to be his arm candy at work events to make him feel successful and grown up. But the bakery? My actual dreams? He thought I was wasting my time. He wanted me to get a real job and help pay for his career advancement." "Let me guess," Adrian said. "The woman he left you for was more willing to play that role?" "She was a paralegal at his firm who thought he was brilliant," Maya said. "Last I heard, she'd quit her job to support his. I wanted to be angry at her, but mostly I just felt sorry for her. She'll figure out eventually what I did, that Derek only loves himself." They danced in silence for a while, the music washing over them, the movement soothing. Maya let her cheek rest against Adrian's shoulder, breaking the formal distance between them. She felt him tense for a moment, then relax, drawing her slightly closer. "This is probably the strangest day of my life," Maya murmured. "Mine too," Adrian said, "but not the worst. Strangely enough, not the worst at all." The song ended, transitioning to something more upbeat. Other dancers surrounded them, and the mood in the room had shifted entirely. This no longer felt like a disaster being managed, but like an actual celebration. People were laughing, drinking, dancing without the weight of obligation. "I need some air," Adrian said. "Come with me?" Maya nodded, and Adrian led her off the dance floor through the ballroom and out onto a terrace she hadn't noticed earlier. The space was decorated with string lights and potted topiaries, and the view overlooked the city skyline just beginning to sparkle as dusk approached. The cool evening air was a relief after the warmth of the ballroom. Maya breathed deeply, feeling the tension in her shoulders ease. Adrian walked to the terrace railing, gripping it with both hands, his posture tense again now that they were alone. "Thank you," he said without turning around. "For staying, for the cake cutting, for the dance. You didn't have to do any of it." "I wanted to," Maya said simply. She joined him at the railing, looking out at the city. "Besides, this is definitely the most interesting Saturday I've had in ages." Adrian laughed softly. "I'm glad my catastrophe could provide entertainment." "It's not a catastrophe," Maya said. "Or if it is, you're handling it better than most people would. You're still standing. You're still here. That takes strength." Adrian turned to look at her, his expression serious. "Or stubbornness." "You said that was my defining characteristic. Strength and stubbornness are basically the same thing," Maya said. "Just depends on the perspective." The setting sun cast golden light across Adrian's face, highlighting the strong line of his jaw, the intensity in his dark eyes. Maya felt her breath catch. When had he become attractive to her? Or had he always been? and she was only now letting herself acknowledge it? Maya, Adrian said, his voice low. I need to be honest with you about something. Okay, Maya said, her heart beginning to race. Today, meeting you, having you here, it's the best thing that's happened to me in months. Maybe longer. And I know that's insane because we just met. And the circumstances are bizarre, and I have no right to ask anything of you. He paused, seeming to gather courage. But I'd like to see you again. After tonight, after the chaos settles. I'd like to take you to dinner, or coffee, or just talk, if you'd be willing. Maya's first instinct was to say yes immediately, but years of self-protection, of rebuilding her life carefully after Derek, made her hesitate. Adrian, you're in a vulnerable place right now. Your wedding just fell apart. This day has been emotional and strange, and I'm worried you're rebounding? Adrian finished. I've thought of that. Believe me, I've examined my motives from every angle over the last few hours. But Maya, this doesn't feel like desperation or emptiness seeking filling. This feels like recognition. Recognition? Like I've been waiting to meet someone real, someone genuine, and I finally have. Vanessa and we were never right. I think I knew it all along but was too proud or too afraid to admit it. Today forced me to face that truth. And then you walked in, flower on your apron, completely out of place and absolutely perfect. And something just clicked. Maya felt tears threatening. No one had ever spoken to her like this, with such raw honesty, such vulnerability. Derek had never been capable of this kind of emotional transparency. I'm scared, Maya admitted. I'm scared of getting hurt again, of trusting someone and having them decide I'm not enough. I can't promise I won't hurt you, Adrian said. I can't promise this will work out. But I can promise I'll never make you feel like you're not enough. Because from where I'm standing, you're extraordinary. Maya looked into his eyes and saw sincerity there. No games, no manipulation. Just a man who'd had his worst day, turned into something unexpectedly good, and wanted to hold on to that. One date, Maya said. One real date, not disaster relief therapy, and we take it slow. I need slow. Adrian's face broke into a genuine smile. Slow is perfect. Slow is good. I can do slow. And no media circus, Maya added. I'm serious about that. I have a business to protect, a reputation. I can't become Billionaire's rebound girl in the tabloids. Agreed. We'll be discreet. Private. Adrian extended his hand. Deal? Maya shook his hand, feeling the warmth of his palm, the promise in his grip. Deal. They stood together on the terrace as the city lights began to twinkle below, the sound of music and laughter drifting from the ballroom behind them. Maya felt like she was standing at the edge of something, a cliff or a bridge. She wasn't sure which. But for the first time in months, she was willing to find out. We should go back in, Adrian said reluctantly. People will talk if we're gone too long. They're already talking, Maya pointed out. True, but let's not give them more ammunition. They walked back into the ballroom together, and Maya immediately felt the weight of eyes on them. Adrian's mother was holding court at a corner table, surrounded by well-dressed women who kept glancing in their direction. The message was clear. Maya had been noted, judged, and found wanting. Ignore them, Adrian murmured. They don't matter. But they did matter. At least a little. Maya wasn't naive enough to think dating Adrian, if that's what they were doing, would be simple. His world and hers were galaxies apart. She made cakes. He built skyscrapers. She counted pennies. He probably never looked at price tags. The next hour passed in a blur. Maya met what felt like hundreds of people, all of whom were clearly evaluating her and finding the situation fascinating. She smiled until her face hurt, answered polite questions about her bakery, and tried not to feel like an exhibit in a zoo. Adrian stayed close, his presence steady and protective. Around 9 o'clock, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Jenna, her bakery assistant. "Boss, we have a problem. The refrigerator is making a weird noise and I think it's dying. What should I do?" Maya's heart sank. The refrigerator was ancient and had been threatening to quit for months, but she'd been putting off the replacement cost. If it died with all of next week's orders inside, she'd be ruined. "I have to go," Maya said to Adrian, showing him the text. "Bakery emergency." Adrian's expression shifted to concern. "Is there anything I can do to help?" "Not unless you have a commercial refrigerator repair person on speed dial," Maya said, trying to keep the panic out of her voice. "Actually," Adrian said, pulling out his phone, "I might. Give me a second." He stepped away, speaking quietly into his phone. Maya watched, not quite believing this was happening. Within 2 minutes, he returned. "I have someone who can meet you at your bakery in 30 minutes. He's the best in the city. Handles all our restaurant properties. Tell your assistant to wait for him." Maya stared at Adrian, torn between gratitude and discomfort. "I can't let you do that. I don't even know what it would cost. Consider it a favor between friends," Adrian said. "You gave me today. Let me give you this." Maya wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her independence, but the reality was, she needed help. Pride wouldn't save her inventory or her business. "Thank you," she said finally. "But I'm paying for whatever repairs are needed." "We can argue about that later," Adrian said with a slight smile. "Right now, you need to go save your bakery." Maya texted the information to Jenna, grabbed her empty cake box from where she'd stashed it near the entrance, and turned to Adrian. "I guess this is good night. I'll walk you out," Adrian said. They made their way through the ballroom and Maya was aware of the curious stares following them. At the grand entrance, the doorman had already retrieved Maya's bakery van from wherever it had been parked. Apparently, illegally parked vehicles belonging to guests of Adrian Blackwood were treated with special care. "Thank you for tonight," Adrian said as they stood by her van. "For making a disaster into something bearable. Something good. Thank you for asking me to stay," Maya said, "for seeing me as more than just the cake delivery person." Adrian reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture intimate and tender. "I'll call you tomorrow." "Is that too soon?" "Tomorrow is fine," Maya said, her heart racing at his touch. "Good." Adrian stepped back, giving her space. "Drive safely. And let me know how the refrigerator situation works out." Maya climbed into her van, started the engine, and pulled away from the Grandview Plaza. In her rearview mirror, she could see Adrian standing on the hotel steps, watching her leave. She drove through the city streets, her mind whirling with everything that had happened. This morning she'd been Maya Chen, struggling baker with a broken heart and a small life. Now, she was Maya Chen, who'd crashed a billionaire's wedding and might be dating him. The refrigerator repair person, a cheerful man named Marcus, who indeed seemed to know what he was doing, was waiting when Maya arrived at her bakery. He had the refrigerator diagnosed and repaired within an hour. "A worn compressor," he explained, "easily fixed." When Maya asked about the cost, Marcus just smiled. "Mr. Blackwood's account. Already taken care of. Have a good night, ma'am." Before Maya could protest, he was gone. She stared at the now humming refrigerator, torn between gratitude and unease. She wasn't used to accepting help, especially not from wealthy men who could solve problems with a phone call. Jenna, her assistant, was watching her with unconcealed curiosity. "So, are you going to tell me why Adrian Blackwood's personal repair person just fixed our refrigerator?" "It's complicated," Maya said. "I delivered a cake to his wedding today." "I heard about that wedding," Jenna said, eyes widening. "It was all over social media. The bride didn't show up. It's huge news." Maya's stomach sank. "Already?" Jenna pulled out her phone and showed Maya. Sure enough, the story was trending. Photos of the Grandview Plaza, screenshots of society page posts, speculation running wild. And there, in several photos, was Maya, sitting at the head table, cutting cake with Adrian, dancing with him. The captions ranged from curious to cruel. Mystery woman at disaster wedding. Who is Adrian Blackwood's companion? Billionaire finds comfort with unknown woman after bride abandons him. Maya felt sick. This was exactly what she'd feared. But somehow, the reality was worse than the anticipation. Her face was out there. Her name would be discovered soon, and her quiet life was about to become very loud. Maya, what happened? Jenna asked gently. So Maya told her the whole strange, surreal story. Jenna listened with increasing amazement. That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard, Jenna said when Maya finished. It's not romantic. It's complicated, Maya said. He's a billionaire going through a public humiliation, and I'm a baker who can barely make rent some months. We're from completely different worlds. So what? You liked him, didn't you? Maya thought about Adrian's honesty, his vulnerability, the way he'd looked at her like she mattered. Yeah, she admitted. I liked him. Then who cares about the rest? Jenna said with the certainty of someone who'd never had her heart broken. Maybe different worlds is exactly what makes it interesting. Maya wanted to believe that, but experience had made her cautious. I should go home, get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be complicated. She drove to her small apartment in Brooklyn, climbed the stairs to her third-floor walk-up, and collapsed onto her couch. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. A text from Adrian. I hope the refrigerator is fixed. Thank you again for tonight. Sleep well. Maya smiled, despite her exhaustion, and typed back. Fixed. And you're welcome. Today was unforgettable. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Sunday morning arrived with chaos. Maya's phone started ringing at 7 a.m. and didn't stop. Reporters had identified her, Maya Chen, owner of Sweet Endings Bakery in Brooklyn, and wanted comments, interviews, statements. Her social media accounts were flooded with messages, friend requests, and DMs ranging from supportive to vicious. Gold digger. Opportunist. She just wants his money. Poor guy rebounds with the help. But also, she seems sweet. Good for Adrian finding someone real. They looked happy together. Maya ignored all of it. She went to her bakery, focused on the orders she had due Monday, and tried to pretend her life hadn't just become a circus. Around noon, Adrian called. How are you holding up? I've had better mornings, Maya admitted. I've been fielding reporter calls since dawn. I'm sorry, Adrian said. And he sounded genuinely pained. I knew there would be a tension, but I didn't think they'd find you this quickly. Internet age, Maya said with a sigh. Nothing stays private anymore. Listen, Adrian said. I understand if you want to back out. Of seeing me, I mean. This is more than anyone should have to deal with, especially someone who didn't ask for it. Maya considered it. It would be so easy to walk away, to protect herself, to return to her quiet life. But then she thought about Adrian's laugh, the way he'd seen her as an artist, the connection she'd felt. I don't want to back out, Maya said, but I need that date you promised. Something normal, away from cameras and gossip. How about Tuesday night? Adrian suggested. There's a small Italian restaurant in the village that I love. Family-owned, quiet, not fancy. We could just talk. Get to know each other, without the circus. That sounds perfect, Maya said. They talked for another 20 minutes, easy conversation about nothing important. Adrian told her about his morning dealing with his mother's recriminations and his father's surprisingly supportive phone call. Maya told him about the wedding cake she was designing for next weekend, a 5-tier creation featuring hand-painted peacock feathers. When they hung up, Maya felt lighter. Maybe this could work. Maybe different worlds could find common ground. Tuesday came faster than Maya expected. She spent the afternoon obsessing over what to wear, finally settling on a simple navy dress and flats, Nice enough for dinner, but still authentically her. The restaurant Adrian had chosen was indeed small and tucked away, the kind of place you'd walk past without noticing unless you knew it was there. Adrian was waiting outside, dressed casually in dark jeans and a button-down shirt, looking more relaxed than he had at the wedding. "Hi," he said, his face brightening when he saw her. "Hi," Maya replied, suddenly nervous. This was their first real moment alone together, outside the chaos of Saturday. What if the connection had just been circumstance? What if reality didn't match the intensity of that day? Adrian led her inside, where an older Italian man greeted him warmly in rapid Italian. They were shown to a corner table, private and quiet, with a single candle and a small vase of fresh flowers. "You speak Italian?" Maya asked as they sat down. "My grandmother was Italian," Adrian explained. "She insisted I learn. Said a Blackwood should be cultured." He smiled wryly. "I think she hoped it would make me more sophisticated. Mostly I just use it to order food." Maya laughed, and the tension between them eased. They ordered pasta for both of them, wine that the owner personally recommended. And then they talked, really talked, without the pressure of a disaster or the eyes of 200 guests. Adrian told her about growing up with the Blackwood name, the pressure to excel, the expectations that had shaped every choice, how he'd gone to Wharton because it was expected, entered the family business because it was assumed, proposed to Vanessa because she fit the profile of what a Blackwood wife should be. "I don't think I've ever made a truly independent choice," Adrian admitted. "Everything has been about maintaining the family legacy, meeting expectations, being who I'm supposed to be instead of who I am." "Who are you?" Maya asked, "when you strip away the expectations?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "I'm not sure anymore. Maybe that's what I need to figure out." Maya understood that completely. After Derek, she'd had to rediscover herself, separate her identity from who she'd been trying to be for someone else. "I think you're someone who values honesty," Maya said. "Someone who faces hard things instead of running from them. Someone who tries to do right by people, even when it's difficult." "That's who I want to be," Adrian said. "I'm not always sure I succeed." "None of us always succeed," Maya said, "but wanting to be better is half the battle." They talked about Maya's bakery, her dreams of eventually expanding, maybe opening a cafe where people could enjoy fresh pastries with their morning coffee. She talked about the joy of creating something from scratch, the satisfaction of making people happy through her work. "I'm not changing the world," Maya said. "I'm just making cakes. But I love it. It's mine, you know? It's the first thing I've ever done that's entirely mine. That's everything." Adrian said seriously, "Doing something you love, something that's yours, that's success. That's what I'm trying to find." The dinner stretched into hours. They shared tiramisu for dessert, laughing over shared stories, finding unexpected common ground in their different experiences. When the restaurant began closing around them, they reluctantly stood to leave. Adrian paid the bill despite Maya's protests, and they walked out into the cool night. "Can I walk you home?" Adrian asked. "I'm probably 15 blocks from here," Maya said. "I like walking," Adrian said, "if you don't mind the company." They walked through the village streets, passing late-night cafes and quiet brownstones. Adrian kept a respectful distance, didn't try to hold her hand, but Maya was acutely aware of him beside her. When they reached her building, a modest walk-up that looked shabby compared to the gleaming towers Adrian was used to, Maya felt suddenly self-conscious. "This is me," she said. "It's perfect," Adrian said, looking up at the building with what seemed like genuine appreciation. "It suits you." "You mean it's small and slightly worn around the edges?" Maya joked. "I mean it's real," Adrian said. "Authentic. Not trying to be something it's not." They stood on the sidewalk, the moment stretching between them. Maya knew she should say goodnight, go inside, maintain the slow pace she'd requested. But she didn't want the night to end. "I had a really good time," Maya said. "Me too," Adrian replied. "Better than good." This felt right. It did, Maya agreed. Adrian reached out and took her hand, his touch gentle. "Can I see you again? Soon?" "Yes," Maya said without hesitation. Adrian smiled, squeezed her hand gently, then released it. "Good night, Maya." "Good night, Adrian." Maya climbed the stairs to her apartment, her heart full in a way it hadn't been in months. Maybe years. This felt different from Derek, from any relationship she'd had before. This felt like possibility. Over the next 3 weeks, Maya and Adrian fell into a pattern. Dinners at quiet restaurants, walks through Central Park, visits to museums on weekday afternoons when they could avoid crowds. Adrian came to her bakery one morning at 5 a.m., insisting he wanted to see her world. He'd rolled up his sleeves and helped her mix batter, his expensive watch getting dusted with flour, laughing when he couldn't get the piping technique right. Maya had never seen him happier than when he was covered in sugar, trying to create a passable rose out of buttercream. They kept it private, avoiding anywhere with cameras or media presence. But of course, photos still leaked. Adrian and Maya walking in the park, Adrian leaving her bakery. The speculation continued, but quieter now, the initial frenzy fading to background noise. Adrian's mother remained disapproving. She'd made her feelings clear the one time Maya had joined Adrian for a family dinner, polite hostility masked as concern for her son's reputation. But Adrian's father had been surprisingly kind, asking genuine questions about her business, treating her like a person rather than an inconvenience. "My father started with nothing," Adrian told Maya after that dinner. "Built the first Blackwood property with loans and sweat equity. My mother married into the money. She forgets sometimes that we weren't always this way. Dad remembers. He respects people who build things." Maya was falling for him. She tried not to. Tried to protect herself, but it was happening anyway. Adrian was thoughtful and funny, vulnerable and strong. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He supported her dreams without trying to manage them. He was everything Derek hadn't been. One Saturday evening, 6 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, Adrian invited Maya to his penthouse apartment. She'd been curious about where he lived, but also nervous. His world was so different from hers, and seeing it might emphasize just how far apart they really were. The building was in Tribeca, all glass and steel, and doormen who wore actual uniforms. The elevator required a key for the penthouse level. Maya's stomach fluttered with nerves as they ascended. Adrian's apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River, modern furniture that probably cost more than her annual rent, art on the walls that looked museum quality. But it also felt strangely impersonal, like a showroom rather than a home. "It's beautiful," Maya said, walking to the windows. "It's empty," Adrian said. "I've lived here for 5 years and it still doesn't feel like mine. My decorator chose everything. I just wrote the checks." Maya turned to look at him. "Why?" "Because that's what you do when you're a Blackwood," Adrian said. "You hire the right people, make the right choices, create the right image. But you're right that it's empty. I don't think I've ever really lived here. I've just existed here." "That's sad," Maya said softly. Adrian shrugged. "I'm realizing a lot of my life has been sad in ways I didn't recognize. Until I met you." He crossed to where she stood by the windows. "You've made me see what's been missing. Connection, authenticity, joy." Maya's heart raced as Adrian stepped closer. "Adrian, I'm in love with you," Adrian said quietly. "I know it's fast. I know we said slow. But Maya, I can't pretend anymore. You've changed everything for me. You've shown me what life could be instead of what it's supposed to be." Tears pricked Maya's eyes. "I'm scared." "So am I," Adrian admitted. "I'm terrified. What if I'm not enough for you? What if you realize I'm just a broken person trying to fix himself? What if my world destroys what we have? What if it doesn't?" Maya whispered, "What if we're brave enough to try anyway?" Adrian cupped her face in his hands, his touch infinitely gentle. Are you brave enough? Maya thought about the girl who'd been broken by Derek's betrayal, who'd rebuilt herself cake by cake, who'd stumbled into a disaster wedding and chosen to stay. She'd been brave before. She could be brave again. Yes, she said. I'm brave enough. Adrian kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Maya melted into it, into him, letting herself feel all the things she'd been holding back. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Stay tonight, he said. Just stay. We'll order takeout, watch terrible movies, pretend the outside world doesn't exist. Okay, Maya agreed. They ordered Thai food and ate it on Adrian's ridiculously expensive couch, laughing over a comedy that was indeed terrible. Adrian told her about his day dealing with a difficult property development, and Maya told him about the bridezilla who'd called 14 times about her cake design. It was normal and perfect and everything Maya hadn't known she needed. Around midnight, curled up against Adrian's side, Maya said, I love you too. I was just too scared to say it. Adrian's arms tightened around her. You're not scared anymore? I'm terrified, Maya admitted. But I'm saying it anyway. I love you, Adrian Blackwood. Disaster wedding and all. Best disaster of my life, Adrian murmured, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. 3 months later, Maya's bakery expanded. Adrian had offered to invest, but Maya had refused. This had to be hers. Instead, he'd helped her navigate the business loan process, introduced her to a banker who gave her favorable terms, and supported her through the stress of construction and hiring new staff. Sweet Endings Cafe opened on a Saturday morning in October, featuring Maya's pastries alongside coffee and a small lunch menu. The line wrapped around the block, partly because of the quality, partly because of the novelty of Adrian Blackwood's girlfriend's bakery. Maya tried not to resent the attention. It brought customers after all. Adrian was there for the opening, along with his father and several business associates. Even his mother showed up, offering stiff congratulations that seemed more about appearances than genuine support. But Maya didn't care. She was surrounded by friends, by Jenna and her small but dedicated staff, by the culmination of years of dreams and hard work. Proud of you, Adrian said, pulling her aside during a quiet moment. This is incredible. Thank you for believing in me, Maya said. Thank you for showing me what my life was missing, Adrian replied. That evening, exhausted but happy, Maya and Adrian walked through Central Park. Fall leaves crunched under their feet, and the air held that perfect autumn chill. They'd fallen into comfortable silence when Adrian suddenly stopped walking. Maya, I need to tell you something. His tone made her nervous. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, actually. That's the problem. Adrian took both her hands. I've been thinking about this for weeks, trying to figure out the right time, the right way. But there is no perfect time, is there? Maya's heart began to race. Adrian, what? The wedding that wasn't, Adrian said. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it brought me you. You've changed my entire life, Maya. You've shown me what love actually is, what partnership looks like, what it means to choose someone every day. He released one of her hands to reach into his jacket pocket. Maya's breath caught. I know we haven't been together that long. I know there are a million reasons to wait, to be sensible, to take it slow like you asked. But I also know I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Adrian dropped to one knee right there on the park path. Maya Chen, will you marry me? Maya stared at the ring he held, a simple, elegant diamond that caught the lamplight, beautiful without being ostentatious. Her mind spun. This was crazy. They'd known each other less than 6 months. The media would have a field day. His mother would probably have an aneurysm. But looking at Adrian kneeling before her, his eyes full of hope, and love and vulnerability, Maya realized something. Sometimes the most logical choice wasn't the right choice. Sometimes you had to trust your heart over your head. Sometimes You had to be brave. Yes, Maya said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you. Adrian stood and swept her into his arms, spinning her around as she laughed through her tears. He slid the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, of course, and kissed her with a passion that made Maya forget they were in a public park. When they finally broke apart, breathless and grinning, Adrian said, "I promise you, this wedding will actually happen." Maya laughed. "It better. I'm baking my own cake." The engagement made headlines, of course. Billionaire proposes to baker after wedding disaster. Adrian Blackwood engaged 6 months after being left at altar. The coverage ranged from supportive to cynical, but Maya found she cared less about public opinion than she'd expected. Let them talk. She knew her truth. The wedding planning was intentionally different from Adrian's first attempt. They chose a small venue, a botanical garden in Brooklyn, intimate and beautiful without being ostentatious. The guest list was limited to people they actually cared about, not business obligations or social requirements. Maya designed her own dress with a local seamstress, simple and elegant, nothing like the designer gown Vanessa had reportedly ordered. Adrian's mother tried to take over the planning multiple times, suggesting venues and caterers and orchestras. Each time, Adrian gently but firmly reminded her that this was his and Maya's wedding, not a Blackwood corporate event. "She means well," Adrian said after a particularly tense phone call. "She just expresses love through control." "I know," Maya said, "but this has to be ours. Really ours." "Agreed." Adrian pulled her close. "Although I have to ask, are you sure you want to bake your own wedding cake? That seems like a lot of stress." "I'm delegating most of it to Jenna," Maya said. "But I'm doing the design and the final decorating. It's important to me." "Then it's important to me too," Adrian said simply. 6 months later, on a perfect April morning, Maya stood in the Botanical Gardens bridal suite, staring at herself in the mirror. Her dress was everything she'd hoped. Simple ivory silk with delicate lace at the shoulders, flowing without being fussy. Jenna had helped with her hair and makeup, keeping everything natural. "You look beautiful," Jenna said, her eyes welling up. "I can't believe this is happening. 6 months ago you delivered a cake to the wrong wedding, and now, it wasn't the wrong wedding." Maya interrupted with a smile. "It was exactly the right wedding, just not in the way anyone expected." A knock at the door revealed Adrian's father, who'd offered to walk Maya down the aisle since her own father had passed away years ago. "Ready?" he asked gently. "So ready," Maya said. The ceremony space was perfect, rows of white chairs beneath a flowering cherry tree, petals drifting down like snow. 50 guests, all people who genuinely mattered. The string quartet played softly as Maya walked down the aisle on Mr. Blackwood's arm. And there, at the end of the aisle, stood Adrian. He wore a classic tuxedo, and his expression when he saw Maya took her breath away. Wonder and love and joy so pure, it made her eyes sting with happy tears. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They'd written their own vows, speaking truths about love and partnership, about choosing each other every day, about building a life together that honored both their dreams. "I, Adrian, take you, Maya, to be my wife," Adrian said, his voice strong and clear. "You've taught me what it means to really live, to be authentic, to choose love over expectation. I promise to support your dreams, to be your partner in every sense, and to never let you forget how extraordinary you are." Maya's turn came, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "I, Maya, take you, Adrian, to be my husband. You've shown me that love can be safe and exciting at the same time, that being vulnerable is strength, not weakness. I promise to choose you every day, to build a life with you that's ours, and to always remind you who you are when the world tries to tell you who you should be." They exchanged rings, simple platinum bands that symbolized eternity, and when the officiant pronounced them married, Adrian kissed Maya with such tenderness that several guests openly cried. The reception was held in the garden's conservatory, all glass and greenery with fairy lights strung overhead. Maya's cake was displayed prominently, 4 tiers of champagne cake with lemon curd filling, decorated with fresh flowers and delicate piping that had taken her hours to perfect. "It's stunning," Adrian whispered as they cut the cake together, this time with no disaster, no empty chair, just joy. "You're an artist." "We've established that," Maya teased, feeding him a bite of cake. The evening unfolded with laughter and dancing, speeches from Jenna and Adrian's father that had everyone reaching for tissues. Adrian's mother even managed a smile, offering stiff but genuine congratulations. When Maya and Adrian took to the dance floor for their first dance, the string quartet played the same jazz standard that had been playing during their first dance at the disaster wedding. "Full circle," Adrian murmured, holding Maya close. "Better than full circle," Maya said. "This is the beginning, not the end." They swayed together as their friends and family watched, and Maya felt a completeness she'd never experienced before. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Chosen, celebrated, real. Later, as the party wound down and the stars came out above the conservatory glass, Adrian pulled Maya aside to a quiet corner of the garden. "I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small wrapped box. Maya laughed. "We're already married. What more could you give me?" "Open it," Adrian urged. Inside was a key, ornate and old-fashioned, clearly not for any modern lock. Maya looked up at Adrian questioningly. "It's symbolic," Adrian explained. "The key to my heart, my life, my future. Everything I am and everything I have is yours." But more importantly, he pulled out a folder from seemingly nowhere. "This is the deed to a property in Brooklyn, a corner lot with an old building. I thought maybe, if you wanted, we could renovate it together. Turn it into whatever you dream. A bigger bakery, a cafe, a cooking school, whatever you want." Maya's hands shook as she looked at the documents. "Adrian, this is too much, it's not." Adrian interrupted gently. "It's an investment in our future. In your dreams. I'm not trying to control or manage them. I'm trying to support them. But if you don't want it, if you'd rather do it on your own, I completely understand. This is just me saying, I believe in you. In us. In what we can build together." Tears streamed down Maya's face as she threw her arms around Adrian's neck. "Thank you. Thank you for seeing me, for believing in me, for loving me. Always," Adrian promised. "For the rest of our lives." The honeymoon was 2 weeks in Italy, a blend of both their wishes. They spent time in Tuscany, where Adrian showed Maya the village his grandmother had come from, and they ate pasta made by local nonnas who insisted on teaching Maya their secrets. They visited Rome and Florence, getting lost in art and history and each other. "I've been to Italy a dozen times," Adrian said one evening as they sat in a tiny trattoria in a Roman side street. "But I've never really seen it until now." "You make everything new." "That's what love does," Maya said, reaching across the table to take his hand. "It makes the whole world look different." When they returned to New York, reality set in. The beautiful, complicated reality of building a life together. Maya threw herself into planning the expansion of her bakery, working with architects and contractors while still managing her existing business. Adrian supported her, but also had his own revelation. "I'm stepping back from Blackwood Properties," he announced one evening over dinner in their new apartment, a compromise between his penthouse and her walk-up. A beautiful brownstone they'd bought together in Brooklyn. Maya nearly dropped her fork. "What?" "Adrian, that's your family legacy. It's my father's legacy," Adrian corrected. "It was never really mine. I've been thinking about what you said, about doing something that's mine. I want to start a foundation. Focus on affordable housing development. Help people who are being priced out of their own neighborhoods. Use what I know about real estate to actually help people instead of just making rich people richer." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "That's incredible." "I'm scared," Adrian admitted. "My mother is going to be furious. The board will fight me. But I can't keep living a life that doesn't feel like mine." "Then don't," Maya said simply. "Be brave. You taught me that. The next year was transformative for both of them. Maya's bakery expansion opened to rave reviews, and she hired 3 more bakers, allowing her to step back from the daily grind and focus on design and business development. She started teaching baking classes on weekends, sharing her skills with aspiring bakers who reminded her of her younger self. Adrian launched the Blackwood Foundation, focusing on affordable housing and community development. His mother was indeed furious, viewing it as a betrayal of the family business. But his father surprised everyone by becoming the foundation's first major donor and joining the board. "I built an empire," Adrian's father said at the foundation's launch event. "But my son is building a legacy. That matters more." The foundation's first project was a mixed-income development in Brooklyn, featuring ground-floor commercial spaces for local businesses, including a satellite location for Sweet Endings Bakery. Maya and Adrian stood together at the groundbreaking ceremony, shovels in hand, grinning at each other like conspirators. "We're actually doing this," Maya said. "Building something together that matters. Best partnership of my life," Adrian said, kissing her temple. Not everything was perfect, of course. They fought sometimes. About money, about boundaries with Adrian's family, about how to balance their increasingly demanding careers with their relationship. But they'd learned to fight fair, to listen, to compromise. One particularly rough evening, after an argument about Adrian's mother trying to dictate their holiday plans, they sat on opposite ends of their couch in angry silence. Finally, Adrian spoke. "I'm sorry. You were right. I need to set better boundaries with my mother. It's hard to break patterns I've had my whole life." Maya sighed and moved closer. "I'm sorry too. I was being rigid instead of trying to understand why it's difficult for you. We're a team. We figure this out together." They met in the middle, holding each other, remembering that love meant choosing each other even in the hard moments. A year and a half into their marriage, on a snowy December evening, Maya asked Adrian to sit down. She had something to tell him. "Okay, you're scaring me," Adrian said, searching her face. "Is everything all right?" Maya took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "Everything's perfect. We're going to have a baby." Adrian's expression cycled through shock, disbelief, and pure joy in the span of seconds. "Really? We're having a baby," Maya confirmed, laughing through happy tears. Adrian swept her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "We're going to be parents. We're going to have a family." "A family," Maya echoed, the word filling her with wonder. Their daughter, Elena Rose Blackwood, was born the following August. She had Adrian's dark eyes and Maya's smile, and from the moment she entered the world, she had both of them completely wrapped around her tiny fingers. Maya took 6 months off from the bakery, but Adrian took the same amount of time off from the foundation. They split parenting duties equally, both wanting to be present for every moment of their daughter's early life. "This is what I never knew I wanted," Adrian said one night, holding Elena while Maya rested. "This moment, you, her, this life we've built. It's everything." "It's not the life either of us planned," Maya said softly. "It's better than anything I could have planned," Adrian replied. As Elena grew, the story of how her parents met became family legend. "Tell me about the cake again," she would demand as a toddler, never tiring of the tale. "Once upon a time," Maya would begin, "I delivered a cake to the wrong wedding. It wasn't the wrong wedding." Elena would interrupt, giggling. "It was Daddy's wedding." "It was supposed to be Daddy's wedding," Adrian would continue. "But the bride didn't show up, and instead, I met your mommy. The most beautiful, talented, brave woman in the world. And you got married instead." Elena would finish triumphantly. "We did," Maya would confirm. "Sometimes the wrong place is exactly the right place. Sometimes disasters are actually blessings in disguise." 5 years after that fateful day, Maya and Adrian stood in the botanical garden where they'd gotten married, this time celebrating their anniversary with close friends and family. Elena ran through the garden chasing butterflies, while Jenna's twin boys tried to keep up. 5 years, Maya said, leaning against Adrian as they watched their daughter play. Feels like forever, and like yesterday at the same time. Best 5 years of my life, Adrian said. Though I have to say I'm grateful every day that Vanessa didn't show up to that wedding. Maya laughed. Have you ever wondered what happened to her? Where she is now? Not once, Adrian said honestly. She did me the biggest favor of my life by leaving. She set me free to find what I actually needed. Do you ever regret it? The media attention? The complications? All of it? Never, Adrian said firmly. He turned Maya to face him. You are the best choice I've ever made. The only choice that was ever truly mine. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Maya kissed him, soft and sweet, tasting like the life they'd built together. Surprising, challenging, absolutely right. I love you, she said. I love you more, Adrian replied. Impossible, Maya teased. I loved you from the moment you asked me to stay at that disaster wedding. And I loved you from the moment you agreed, Adrian countered. Elena came running over, demanding to be picked up. Adrian swept her into his arms while Maya wrapped her arms around both of them. This was her family. Her chosen family, built on unexpected foundations, strengthened by challenges, and perfected by love. The following year brought new adventures. Sweet Endings Bakery opened its third location, this time in Manhattan. Maya published a cookbook featuring her signature recipes and the story of how her business grew from a single struggling shop to a small empire. The Blackwood Foundation completed its 5th affordable housing development, earning national recognition and inspiring similar programs in other cities. Adrian was invited to speak at conferences and universities, sharing his journey from corporate real estate to community-focused development. But the biggest change came when Maya and Adrian decided to expand their family. Adopting had always been part of their plan, and when they met Marcus, a 7-year-old boy in the foster system with a smile that could light up a room and a history that broke their hearts, they knew he was meant to be theirs. The adoption process was long and complicated, filled with paperwork and home visits and moments of doubt. But 10 months later, Marcus officially became Marcus Chen Blackwood, Elena's big brother and the missing piece of their family puzzle. I have 2 parents now, Marcus said on the day the adoption was finalized, his voice full of wonder. And a sister. I have a real family. You always deserved a family, Maya said, hugging him tight. We're just lucky we found each other. Adrian's mother, who'd slowly warmed to Maya over the years, surprised everyone by how completely she embraced Marcus. Perhaps seeing her son become a father had softened something in her. Or perhaps she'd simply realized that love was more important than pedigree. Whatever the reason, she became Marcus's most devoted grandmother, spoiling him with the same enthusiasm she'd shown for Elena. Your mother is taking Marcus to the opera next week, Maya told Adrian one evening, still slightly amazed. She's trying to expose him to culture, Adrian said with a grin. I think she's just happy to have another grandchild to dote on. Turns out all she needed was to be needed. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Maya and Adrian juggled demanding careers with active parenting, supported each other through challenges, and celebrated each other's victories. They made date night sacred, hiring a babysitter every Friday so they could remember why they'd fallen in love in the first place. Sometimes they went to fancy restaurants, but more often they went back to that small Italian place in the village, where Adrian had first told Maya he loved her. We've come a long way from that disaster wedding, Maya said on their 7th anniversary sitting at their usual corner table. Have we though? Adrian mused. Or have we just become more of who we always were? Deep thoughts for a Tuesday, Maya teased. I'm serious, Adrian said. You were always an artist, always brave, always extraordinary. I just didn't know how to see it in myself until you showed me. And now, we're just living out loud instead of living small. I like living out loud with you, Maya said. Even when it's messy. Especially when it's messy, Adrian corrected. They talked late into the evening, the conversation flowing as easily as it had from that first dance. When they finally headed home, walking hand in hand through the city streets, Maya felt profound gratitude for the path that had led her here. 8 years after delivering a cake to the wrong wedding, Maya stood on a stage at a culinary conference, accepting an award for small business excellence. In her acceptance speech, she told her story: the failed engagement, the struggling bakery, the wrong wedding that became so right. "I used to think success meant avoiding disaster," Maya said to the audience. "Meant planning perfectly, controlling every variable, never making mistakes. But the best thing that ever happened to me came from walking through the wrong door at the wrong time. Or maybe it was the right door at the right time, and I just couldn't see it yet." She spotted Adrian in the audience, holding Elena on his lap while Marcus sat beside them. Her family. Her impossible, wonderful family. "Success isn't about avoiding disasters," Maya continued. "It's about showing up anyway. Being brave enough to stay when logic says run. Choosing love over fear. Possibility over safety. My business exists because I was stubborn enough to keep baking even when everything fell apart. My family exists because I was brave enough to stay at a wedding that wasn't mine." The audience erupted in applause, and Maya caught Adrian's eye. He mouthed "I love you," and she felt tears prick her eyes. "So here's my advice," Maya said. "Deliver your cakes, do your work, show up for your life. But stay open to the wrong doors, the unexpected disasters, the moments that don't fit your plan. Because sometimes the best things in life come from the biggest messes." More applause, and then Maya left the stage to join her family. Elena hugged her legs, Marcus gave her a high five, and Adrian kissed her softly. "Great speech," he said. "Learned it from experience," Maya replied. That evening they had dinner at their Brooklyn brownstone, now fully renovated and filled with the beautiful chaos of family life. While Adrian and the kids cleaned up after dinner, Maya sat at the kitchen island and pulled out her phone. She'd received a message through her bakery's website earlier that day, and now she finally had time to read it. "Dear Maya," the message began, "You don't know me, but I was a guest at Adrian Blackwood's wedding 8 years ago. I watched you stay when you didn't have to, watched how you helped him through what should have been the worst day of his life. I was going through my own heartbreak at the time, convinced I'd never recover. Watching you two gave me hope that good things could come from bad situations. I just wanted you to know that your story mattered to more people than you realize. Thank you for showing me that disasters can become blessings." Maya felt tears slip down her cheeks. She'd never thought about the ripple effects of that day, about who else might have been watching and learning and hoping. "What's wrong?" Adrian asked, appearing at her shoulder. Maya showed him the message. He read it, his expression softening, and then pulled her into his arms. "We did something good that day," he said, "by choosing each other, by being brave. We gave other people permission to be brave too." "I love you," Maya said, holding him tight. "For 8 years I've loved you every single day." "And I've loved you every single day for 8 years, Adrian replied. "Here's to 80 more." They stood together in their kitchen, their children's laughter echoing from the living room, their future stretching out bright and unknown. Maya thought about that younger version of herself, carrying a cake through the wrong doors, too heartbroken to imagine loving again. If she could go back and tell that Maya what was coming, she would say, "Stay. Be brave. Walk through the wrong doors. Deliver the cake to the disaster wedding. Because sometimes the wrong place is exactly where you're supposed to be." The end.